Yes, thank you very much. So Atomo is a Australian medical device company, and we develop, commercialize, and supply unique integrated rapid diagnostic tests globally. And they are patented devices that integrate all of the functionality necessary to do a rapid blood-based test into a single consumer-friendly solution. And they're products that are developed specifically for professional users in point of care, as well as untrained self-test users. We have our lead product, the HIV self-test, developed by us and approved around the world. We have approval in Australia by the TGA. It's the only HIV self-test that's been approved by the TGA for use here. It's also CE marked and on sale in Europe. And it's one of only a small number of products that's been pre-qualified by the World Health Organization as a HIV self-test. And we also have regulatory approvals for our professional use versions as well. We've been in the market for a couple of years with that product, primarily in South Africa. We've sold over 500,000 tests, so it's a well-established product and well accepted in the market. And we've also sold our diagnostic device, our cassette, to other diagnostic companies, and we've sold nearly 500,000 of those as well. With the regulatory approvals secured, we've now been able to enter into long-term material supply agreements with a number of large international healthcare companies, and those cumulative agreements total more than $70 million worth of aggregated revenues over the contracts. They're not take-or-pay contracts, but they are the minimums that customers need to meet to keep their contracts valid. We're looking to raise 30 million at IPO at 20 cents per share, which would give the business a post-market capitalization of $112 million Australian. Investment highlights: it's a very fast-growing market. You'll have noticed with COVID-19, diagnostic testing is now very much in the mainstream news. We've been able to secure multiple revenue streams, and that's across a number of applications as well as a number of customers, and that makes our revenue streams not dependent on any one customer. We've both our own products in the market as well as OEM supply agreements in place, and that gives us some flexibility as well as how we take our technology to market. We have a very strong patent portfolio across several patent families, and there's a slide that will talk about exactly what that IP looks like and where it is. And most recently, we are very well positioned to take our well-proven, well-established delivery device into the COVID-19 market and look to be best in class for both professional and self-test applications. In terms of the technology itself, really what we've done is we've taken existing science, which is rapid flow lateral testing, similar to pregnancy testing, but for blood testing, we've replaced the need for a chemistry set by developing an integrated consumer-friendly solution. So now instead of a test kit with lots of accessories, we've integrated all of the functionality down into a single, easy-to-use, consumer-friendly solution. So the lancing system, the blood delivery system, the buffer system, the test are all integrated into the device, and the user only has to do one or two steps to run the test. So it makes it much less prone to error, much more convenient, and as a result, much more reliable. And that's really what been the basis for our regulatory approvals. The slide that looks at the use of the device from a user's perspective, very, very simple. They push the finger against the lancet, they bleed into a well, it collects the right quantity, they activate a buffer that delivers the blood and at the same time delivers a buffer solution onto the test strip. The test runs and 10 minutes later you've got a line if it's reactive, and if it's not reactive, there's no line. Very similar to a pregnancy test. But what's important to note is that that device supports a very broad range of applications. We've commercialized HIV, we've worked with other partners for other applications, and we're currently commercializing COVID-19 tests. So it's very flexible in that respect. In terms of IP, we've got coverage in large parts of the globe, North America, Europe, Russia, anywhere with a large population, China, India, Indonesia, Brazil. So it's extensive, and we have a number of patent families, and we have extensive patents granted, and a number still pending. So we're very confident that our IP position is very strong, and that IP position really relates to that ability to integrate the functionality of a kit down into a single device. In terms of a bit of history, the company was set up in 2010 by myself and some partners. First couple of years were about developing the platform. 2014, we won Best in Show at the Medical Design Awards. First time an Australian company's ever won that award. First time a diagnostic product's ever won it. And off the back of that, we got a lot of recognition, particularly in the US. We got impact support from the Global Health Investment Fund. We got a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the Global Health Investment Fund have a seat on the board and have been a cornerstone investor. That was a fund set up by JP Morgan and the Gates Foundation and a few other partners to a for-profit fund that really looked to invest in companies that could deliver global health impact. From 2014 to 2016, we were going through regulatory activities. We launched in South Africa in the private sector in 2015. We're now the largest player in the private sector market in South Africa, and we're the leading product. And that market penetration and that market recognition was really the evidence of usability and preference that we took to the market. And that added to our regulatory approvals as we went into 2017, allowed us through the last 18 months to really engage with the market and say, essentially, if this is what a small company can do on its own in South Africa, what could you do with your existing sales infrastructure? And that allowed us to enter into recently some long-term supply agreements. The largest one is with Mylan Pharmaceutical. Mylan is a New York listed pharmaceutical company, and they are very interested in HIV self-test because they provide about half of the world's HIV medicines to market, and obviously for them a HIV self-test allows them to bundle HIV services to countries and also to get more people diagnosed and onto treatment. And they're actively rolling, that agreement covers 130 countries. They've already approved or are getting approval in the first 30, and that's an ongoing scalable opportunity that we're really ramping up our capacity to support. We've also got partners in Europe, and then we sell direct ourselves in Australia via our website and also through some specialist clinics. So really what we're seeing is that transition from R&D to investment and recognition to regulatory approval to commercial engagement and delivery, and now we're into the scale up of the business to now take advantage of that opportunity. We really have two business models for securing revenue. One is where Atomo is the listed manufacturer of the finished product, and that's the box on the left, and that's where we're the listed manufacturer. We hold the regulatory approval and we sell a finished product to a distributor who then sells into the market. And that's been our model for HIV, and there are a number of products in the pipeline that we're looking to bring to market through that channel, because that channel gives us maximum margin and also maximum control. But there is a limit to how many tests we can commercialize in parallel. There are 20 or 30 different applications and we can't do them all at once. So the company has recently set up an OEM business where we sell our device, our cassette, without a test strip to other diagnostic companies, and they use the device with their own test to commercialize their test on our platform. And that allows them to offer their customers better usability, better market penetration, and access to self-test approvals. And we've entered into a number of those. And that's a big opportunity because that's a very large market that we can quite easily scale into, because our off the production line device doesn't change to support those different customers. So it allows us to very quickly and easily scale up our OEM business. And the COVID-19 discussions we're having currently is the latest example of that OEM opportunity. HIV Business, we sell through 3 distributors globally and directly ourselves. We have sold over 500,000 tests, so it's a well-proven product. It's the market leader in South Africa through the iTest brand. We're sold in more than 2,000 pharmacies, and we outsell the nearest competitor based on feedback from our distributor about 3 to 1. And that was really the user preference that we were able to take to our discussions with Mylan and Owen Mumford. So that's a very exciting business for us, and one that will scale materially. HIV self-testing is a very high growth segment. The OEM business, we sell a device, not a finished product, and we have a number of customers. Access Bio is a US company that's listed on the Korean Stock Exchange. RPS has recently been acquired by Lumos, and they're a US-based business with a very interesting test for differentiating between viral and bacterial infection. And that's a test that's very relevant for the current time. And then we have a partner in France, NG Biotech, who have a test for very high sensitive pregnancy detection, and that's sold in IVF clinics and in accident health in French hospitals, and they've got a number of other tests in development. If we look at some of these opportunities, just to give you a sense of kind of the quantum, HIV testing, it's a high growth market. 4 or 5 years ago, self-testing for HIV didn't really exist. We were one of the first players to come to market in this space. It's expected to grow pretty materially as World Health looks to access people who don't come to facilities. And there's only 4 products with a pre-qualification by World Health. And that's critically important because you have to be pre-qualified to be eligible for all of the global tenders. So that's a really, really important business unit for us. The NG pregnancy test, that's a big market. Blood-based pregnancy rapid tests provide a little bit more sensitivity and also earlier detection, which is important for a lot of customers, and also is a very useful test for the accident emergency settings where pregnancy needs to be ruled out from women who go for a CT scan, and this is a quick, easy way in accident emergency to get a quick screening of pregnancy done rather than sending off blood to the lab. As you know, at the moment, labs are extremely overburdened and really struggling to turn around rapid test times. The viral bacterial test that we developed with RPS Lumos, that's a test that's used in frontline clinics and doctor offices to screen for the presence of bacterial or viral infection, and that's increasingly important to minimize the overprescription of antibiotics. Resistance is becoming a big problem. So this would be a test that a physician would be able to use to show a patient that their symptoms were not bacterial and therefore an antibiotic was not required. And the UK Public Health Service has said they believe that these types of tests will be mandatory before prescriptions are prescribed within 5 years, and we think this will become a very large segment of the rapid test market. And we're very confident we've got the best device and we're partnered with the best test manufacturer, and we think this could be a very big opportunity. Additionally, this test is now being promoted as a test to rule out antibiotic bacterial infection as part of a triage for COVID-19 as well. Which then takes us on to our most recent opportunity, which is screening for COVID-19. I don't need to explain the size of that problem or the size of that market opportunity, but our device has been approved as a self-test device and a professional test device for HIV, which is a class 4 infectious disease. And that makes us ideally placed to deliver COVID-19 tests to market. And with molecular testing now stretched to breaking point and struggling to provide a reasonable turnaround time, there's an increasing call for an acknowledgement that rapid blood-based antibody tests are critical, and the demand for these tests now globally outstrips available capacity for manufacturers, and we're no different in that respect. So it's really a case of how do we ramp up production and best meet the needs of the health providers in making sure that these tests are available. You'll notice there's increasingly more engagement from leading healthcare advocates that testing is required, and we think that we're ideally positioned to be a leader in that market, particularly in Australia, where we're already approved on the ARTG as an infectious disease diagnostic manufacturer and have already gone through full TGA audit with our HIV device. And not many people were aware of this test, but antibody tests detect the presence of an antibody, and that antibody is generated in reaction to a COVID-19 infection. So it doesn't measure the virus, but it measures the antibody response to the virus. And that has an advantage that also, once the virus has cleared your system, a molecular test will not be able to determine whether you've had the disease previously, whereas obviously an antibody test does, and that gives healthcare providers much more ability for follow-up surveillance and epidemiology studies. And we think as a result, blood-based antibody tests will be around for several years for COVID-19. We put out a supplementary prospectus to advise the market of our recent developments with COVID-19. I am limited in what I can say, given that we did put out a prospectus that summarized our position 9 days ago. We received a number of urgent inbound inquiries at the start of the month from diagnostic companies globally looking to secure access to our platform. We've engaged proactively with 4 of those. We've got preliminary documentation in place. We've provided samples, and we're working through clinical studies that are being accelerated to prove equivalency to their existing data using our device. And we believe that that would be data that would support engagement with regulators to look to fast track EUA approvals, not just here in Australia, but also in Europe, China, and potentially in the US. All of these markets have now implemented rapid approval programs, and our device, with its existing approvals for HIV, make it we believe a relatively straightforward procedure for us to bring COVID-19 tests to market. We are working very rapidly, both commercially and technically, with these partners, and things have progressed in the last 9 days, and we are still confident that we can have a material impact in COVID-19 testing and get these products to market. That brings us on to the next slide, which talks about manufacturing and scale up. So we developed all of our own manufacturing equipment, and we've got a lot of proprietary know-how, not around how the device works, but how the device gets made. And we have some IP around how the device gets made. We have device manufacturing in components in the US and in China. And we also have set up our own facility in South Africa that's specifically focused on HIV final manufacturing, and that is to support the anticipated scale up of the HIV business through our rollout with Mylan and Owen Mumford. But in addition to that, we are looking to use of funds from the IPO to increase our overall cassette capacity. We're looking to increase that very materially over the next 12 months. We had always anticipated that ramp up, but now we're looking to bring that forward so that the gap between stages 2 and 3 is less. And that's really in response to the anticipated demand for COVID-19. The demand globally outstrips manufacturers' capabilities. The demand that's indicative from our potential partners certainly outstrips the demand that we can deliver. We have 300,000 devices already set aside for these contracts, but we're looking to fast track monthly capacity to get to a much higher monthly rate by August, so that we can really start to see some volume go into the COVID-19 market to benefit Atomo commercially, but also to really help benefit the need for these easy, convenient tests in point of care settings. Quick look at our financials. Obviously, our revenues for financial years 18 and 19 were quite modest. I think that reflects the fact that we were really only selling in the private sector in South Africa. As we went into our new contracts with Mylan and Owen Mumford, we saw in the second half of last year that they started to place their orders. We've already seen in that first half year 2020 a sizable increase in sales for both RDT and OEM devices, and that reflects these contracts coming to market. We expect to see continued growth through those contracts, and we would also be hopeful of additional further incremental revenues coming through from COVID-19. So while we're not making any forecasts on revenue, we do see that we're at that point where that inflection curve is going through the hockey stick, and the COVID-19 will only add to that momentum. Our business is reasonably modest in terms of run rate. We've been a privately funded Australian medtech, so we've been very judicious with how we've deployed capital. We've been very successful in getting grant funding. We believe that ability to access grants may well continue with COVID-19. So we're always looking to minimize dilution to shareholders as best we can. And we don't expect the burn rate of the business to go up materially, at least not through fixed costs. We would see obviously an increase in costs associated with production, but that would obviously generate with sizable margins in return. The IPO is available to participate. If people are interested, they can go to our website, where there's a lot of information on the company, the products, all of our previous press releases and commercial activities, as well as access to the application form as well. And our CFO, Will Suter, is more than happy to discuss further anything related to the business or the IPO if there's an interest to find out more.
John, we've just got a question there from Kevin, if you wanted to get to that just before the summary.
Sure.
Can the test only be used once they had COVID-19, or can a blood test be used to detect infection? Have tests been run?
Yeah, so the tests themselves are single-use disposable tests, so they're very similar to a pregnancy test or a chemistry set kit. So once you use them once, you get a result, and that's a single-use test. Our device can support a range of different tests, but we need to put that test strip in at the point of manufacture. So once it's made to test for a specific chemistry on the strip, but we obviously can support a broad range of clinical applications in the production, if that answers the question.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I know time, it's a short presentation, so my apologies if it's been rushed, but just a quick sort of summary. The device is unique and proprietary. Nobody else has developed an integrated solution. Nobody that we're aware of is bringing a similar product to market. Everyone's still working with a bits in a box chemistry set. They're working on the science. What we've decided to do is wrap a much better delivery device around that science. The product's well proven. We've sold nearly 1 million devices through HIV and other applications. It's a big market opportunity. It's only getting bigger with COVID-19, and we've already got a sizable business built up through HIV, and we think that we can grow that through OEM and COVID-19 opportunities. There's a lot of proprietary know-how and expertise in how the device works and how it gets made, and that's underpinned by a very substantial body of IP and patents. We're a global company. Most of our contracts are in US dollars, so if the Aussie dollar continues to weaken, we benefit from the FX. But our costs are primarily fixed cost based in Australia. There's a lot of growth opportunity, not just through HIV and other infectious diseases, but with time, our self-test applications, we believe, have opportunities in consumer health, and we're actively looking at those. We've increased our management team and board in preparation for listing. We've got very high caliber investors, the Global Health Investment Fund, locally Alan Moss and Lang Walker, both cornerstone investors, and now through this book build expectations of a very robust institutional book. So we're very bullish about the opportunities for the business despite market conditions, and we think that COVID-19 is an example of why this type of business should still come to market in these conditions. And that really is the summary in the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much for that, John. Nice and efficient presentation. We'll send more information regarding the offer and such on the emails to those that are registered. Next up, we have Veeam in about 10 minutes. For those that are either joining that or any other sessions throughout the day, if you get stuck when entering the room, just press refresh and just make sure you...
Are there any other questions that might be of use?
There's no other questions that have come through. It looks like your presentation hit them all.
Well, that's good to hear. But if anyone's interested to find out more, we're available to talk, or obviously the website can be accessed for further data.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John.
Lovely. No, thank you for your time. Thanks.